The story begins with the War of 1812. The United States was still a young nation. Britain was one of the most powerful countries in the world. Tensions between the two countries had been growing for years. Britain was interfering with American shipping and forcing American sailors into British naval service. American leaders were becoming increasingly frustrated. Finally, in 1812, the United States declared war on Britain. But the war didn't go as America expected. The United States struggled to defeat the British. And by 1814, Britain was preparing to strike back in a much bigger way. In 1814, Britain had an important advantage. The Napoleonic Wars in Europe were coming to an end. This meant Britain could send more troops to fight the Americans. British commanders decided to attack an extremely important target, Washington, D.C. At the time, Washington was a small city. It wasn't heavily defended. And many American leaders believed the British might attack somewhere else. But the British had a different plan. They wanted to strike at the heart of the American government. If they could capture Washington, they could send a powerful message to the United States. In August 1814, British troops moved toward Washington. American forces rushed to defend the capital. On August 24th, the two sides met near Washington at the Battle of Bladensburg. But things went badly for the Americans. The American defenders were defeated. British troops continued toward the capital. The road to Washington was now open. President James Madison was forced to leave the city. Government officials began fleeing. And Washington was about to face one of the most terrifying nights in American history. British troops entered Washington, and then the destruction began. They set fire to several important government buildings. The United States Capitol was burned. The White House was burned. Other government buildings were also damaged. Smoke filled the sky. The American Capitol was in flames. It was an enormous humiliation for the young United States. But one story from that night became especially famous. First Lady Dolly Madison had been forced to leave Washington. Before leaving, she helped make sure that important items were saved from the White House. Among them was the famous portrait of George Washington. The painting was removed before the building was destroyed. Then something unexpected happened. A powerful storm moved into Washington. Heavy rain began falling. Strong winds swept through the city. The storm helped extinguish some of the fires. It also made conditions difficult for the British troops. The destruction could have been even worse without the storm. Eventually, British forces withdrew from Washington, but the damage had already been done. The Capitol had been attacked. The White House had been burned. And Americans were left wondering how their young nation had allowed this to happen. But the story didn't end in Washington. Just weeks later, American forces successfully defended Baltimore. British ships attacked Fort McHenry. The fort survived the bombardment. During the battle, Francis Scott Key watched the American flag still flying over the fort. Inspired by what he saw, he wrote a poem. That poem would later become America's national anthem, the Star-Spangled Banner. The United States had suffered a terrible defeat in Washington, but the country was still fighting. By the end of 1814, both Britain and the United States wanted the war to end. The two sides signed the Treaty of Ghent in December 1814. The war was over. Washington began rebuilding. The White House was repaired, the Capitol was rebuilt, and the American government returned to the capital. The city that had been burned was slowly rising again. The burning of Washington was one of the most embarrassing moments in early American history. The nation's capital had been captured, the White House had burned, the Capitol had burned, but America survived. And Washington was rebuilt. Today, millions of people visit the same city that was once nearly destroyed. The story of Washington in 1814 reminds us that history isn't always about victory. Sometimes, it's about how a nation responds after defeat. The Capitol burned, but America rebuilt. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to USA History World for more incredible moments from American history. Thanks for watching.